And killed in North York on the same day City Council gives the go-ahead for a new road safety plan. Vision Zero 2.0 aims to lower speed limits on some streets across the city. Advocates worry it doesn't go far enough. Plus,
it would help diversify the supply of housing in Toronto and breathe new life into those neighborhoods.
could the key to making Toronto a more affordable place to live rest in building more than just high-rise condos or single-family homes? The mayor wants to shake things up. And
I saved money for this dress, and to have someone just take it away is just not fair.
this bride-to-be is scrambling after a Toronto bridal shop closes its doors without notice. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A woman is dead after being struck by a dump truck owned by the city. It happened just after 2 o'clock this afternoon at Cliftwood Road and Don Mills Road. That's in the Hillcrest Village area. Police say she was an elderly woman. Ambulance crews rushed her to hospital in critical condition, but she later died. The driver remained on the scene, and police are still trying to figure out what happened. A spokesperson for the city, Brad Ross, tweeted tonight. A pedestrian was struck and killed today by a City of Toronto vehicle. Police continue to investigate with the city's full cooperation. It looks forward to understanding the circumstances that led to this tragedy. The city offers its deepest condolences to the victim's family. And we don't know if that accident had anything to do with speed, but the message out of City Hall today was pretty clear for drivers. Prepare to hit the brakes. Council giving its stamp of approval to the city's new road safety plan, which calls for a street-by-street approach to lowering speeds. Vision Zero 2.0 is the latest effort by the city to bring the number of road deaths to zero. So far this year, there's been more than a dozen pedestrian deaths. The new plan recommends dropping speed limits by about 10 kilometers an hour on many arterial roads across the city. Some road safety advocates say it's a step in the right direction, but say the plan maintains what they call fatal speed limits throughout most of the city.
We think that this is a good thing. This is a good step forward. Is it going to get us to achieving Vision Zero? We don't think so.
To maintain speed limits of 50 kilometers an hour in areas like Scarborough that have the heaviest brunt of pedestrian death, when you're struck by a driver traveling at 50 kilometers an hour, that's an 85% risk of death.
John Tory defended the street-by-street approach, saying the plan is based on data and is better than a blanket solution. Well, the city's also beefing up its bylaw to crack down on noise. As we first told you last night, the changes are aimed at quieting everything from construction sites to animals. But one of the biggest changes is coming for motorcycle noise. Right now, they aren't even regulated under the City of Toronto's noise bylaw. Chris Glover has that story.
He's just some idiot.
Squealing tires and a plume of smoke in Liberty Village. A video of this burnout surfaced online yesterday as if on cue to illustrate the problem Mayor John Tory wants to crack down on.
It is just the least defensible, the least explainable, the least acceptable, the most inconsiderate kind of noise that can be.
He announced a new noise enforcement team of 24 bylaw officers armed with noise readers to patrol for excessively loud vehicles.
We're going from a more subjective measurement to really an objective scale, so we can forensically be able to use the new tools that the bylaw has, so it'll stand up in court.
I hate those things, so I think that's fantastic. I can't stand the sound of loud things driving by my house or in a place I'm sensitive to sound and I find it disturbing.
Is that the best use of resources?
What do you think?
Let's find out.
Modified exhaust pipes that make a motorcycle louder than 92 decibels, for example, would get a ticket. The city may even introduce the audio equivalent of red light cameras like they have in Edmonton stationed to catch loud offenders. The police welcome the high-tech help.
This is a perfect example of where the City of Toronto has the legal ability to go out and do this without using police officers to do it.
At a motorcycle repair shop, many felt unduly targeted, some even suggesting loud exhaust pipes are added for safety.
The reason we have our bikes modified to be a little bit louder is just so that cars can hear us if they can't see us.
The motorcyclists just rip past my apartment every night, all night.
We talked to a motorcyclist who said that the reason why they're that loud is for safety, so that other vehicles will hear them. What do you think of that?
I have no problem with electric vehicles that you can't hear whatsoever, so that's it.
So you're not buying it from the motorcyclist?
Not buying it.
And while they won't catch everyone, some hope it'll accelerate change.
I mean, we don't always get caught for speeding, but people are a little bit more aware and try not to.
How about that guy doing the burnout in Liberty Village, though?
That was ridiculous, and he should have been charged for something.
So for the first little while, this will be an awareness campaign, but that will quickly change, and those warnings will become tickets. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, car or motorcycle, tomorrow will be day 2 of a rough few months for many downtown commuters, with the westbound Young Bay York off-ramp from the Gardiner Expressway closed for what the city says is important rehabilitation work.
You know, this section between Jarvis Street and Cherry Street is nearing the end of its service life, so it becomes a public safety issue. We know this work is extremely disruptive. Give yourself lots of extra time.
The round-the-clock construction is part of the city's 10-year plan to rehabilitate the Gardiner. The westbound on-ramp at Jarvis will also be closed between midnight and 5 a.m. until the end of the month. The construction is expected to end on September 16th. Well, the future of more than 3,000 new daycare spaces in Toronto is in jeopardy tonight. The city made plans to create them based on a promise by the previous Liberal government. It's something the PCs now say they can't uphold.
As part of the city's childcare growth strategy, there are 51 childcare projects with over 3,000 spaces for young children, slated for completion in the next 3 years, that may have to be abandoned, the blueprints left on a shelf, because the Ford government has broken a promise to provide the necessary funding for those spaces to operate.
The Ontario PC, they say that even though the Liberals promised to fund the new spots, they never attached a funding figure to that commitment. The province now wants the city to commit to paying the operating costs for the new centres, something the city says it can't afford to do. The province wants an answer by the end of August. Council is asking them to push that back until the end of October. If you're having a hard time finding an affordable place to live in Toronto, Mayor Tory hopes changes to the city's decades-old zoning bylaws may help. He wants to encourage a greater diversity in the types and sizes of new buildings. The hope is that by gently increasing the density of many neighborhoods, it'll bring more places to live. Taylor Simmons explains.
Looking around, today's Toronto is made up of 2 main components, single-family homes and high-rises. Today, the mayor said, as the city grows, that needs to change.
As part of this motion, we will ask the chief planner to provide options and timelines on increasing housing options, specifically around the missing middle possibilities across the city.
What is the missing middle? It's units like this, walk-up apartments, duplexes, triplexes, basically medium-sized housing. And while some does exist now, city bylaws prevent more from being built in a huge swath of the city.
It was when the planning regime was done in the 60s and the 70s. A lot of these come from that time, where there was an emphasis on the protection of the single-family home, detached.
The so-called yellow belt, everything in yellow on this map, is protected by those bylaws. It's about 70% of the city. The city has recently taken steps to allow secondary suites and laneway housing, but some say it's time to do more.
Neighborhoods that are protected, if you like, stable neighborhoods, are declining in population. If we were to introduce gentle density to those neighborhoods, then it would help diversify the supply of housing in the Toronto and breathe new life into those neighborhoods.
Planner Phil Stewart lives in one of those stable areas. He says the right approach is key.
I'm thinking that the edges would be the best place of the neighborhoods to introduce the so-called missing middle, which would allow for affordability and allow for a transition for, say, young couples to get away or move out of the residential high towers that they're more or less being forced to occupy.
Tomorrow's motion will ask city planners to look at how and when these changes could happen. If it passes, they'll report back later this year. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy's here with her first look at the forecast. Another sticky, hot day today. We're sort of off to a slow start.
Yeah, really, we are, at least if we were to compare this year to last year. I thought we'd have a little look at this because, you know, we didn't get to 30 degrees till July of this year, whereas in 2018, we started reaching that kind of temperature in May. So we're a couple of months behind. Our hottest day so far was on the 13th at 31.2. Today we were just up to 31. Days with the temperature of 30 degrees or more. We've had 5, but in 2018 in total, there were 30 days, and even by now, we would have been up to about 9 at this point in the year last year, so almost double where we are for 2019. Average number of days with the temperature over 30 degrees tends to be about 12 days if we look at a 30-year period and check out the climatology from that. So we got more to come, and boy, do we. I'm going to talk about that coming up in our longer weather. Still have this heat warning, of course, for southwestern Ontario. By Friday, we may see these expanding over towards other portions like the GTA of Ontario. Our daytime highs today, you can kind of see that range, some low 30s. It seemed not too bad into southwestern Ontario, but when you factor in the humidity, whole different story. Still looking at some scattered thunderstorms through the overnight hours, and then even becoming more widespread tomorrow early in the day, and then improvement later in the day into the evening hours. We'll get into more of a clearing trend. But tonight, 22 for the overnight low, running about 7 degrees above seasonal. Tomorrow afternoon, 28, but still feeling 38, and you will need the umbrella, Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Questions are being asked this week about one of the men behind a bid to bring a WNBA team to the city. One of the bid's co-founders recently ran an esports organization which folded last week. Daniel Escott wasn't able to pay some of the players involved. Well, that and the lack of details about his plan has some questioning the validity of the bid. Add to that, the WNBA says it has no plans to expand right now. For his part, Escott says he'll submit a detailed bid as soon as it is ready. Now, there's some very nervous brides-to-be in our city tonight, wondering what they'll wear for their wedding. It's after a bridal shop near St. Clair and Dufferin closed its doors without notice. Our Ali Chiasson spoke to one woman who was out a dress and a lot of cash.
I felt so happy. It was perfect. It was elegant.
Tashana Halstead tried on about 30 gowns before finding her dream dress at Jolie's Bridal.
I kind of just found it by just searching St. Clair West, and they were like one of the first ones to pop up. And they didn't have any really negative reviews at the time.
She found the dress for her and 4 bridesmaids back in April, all paying in full. The store owner told her she'd get a call when it was time for alterations. Weeks went by. Fast forward to yesterday, when she rolled up to Jolie's and saw the notice on the door.
I guess they weren't paying their rent since, I believe, March, and I purchased my dress in April.
Tashana says she's out around $3,000.
I saved money for this dress, and to have someone just take it away is just not fair. So it's just sad that I have to go through the process again and then have my bridesmaids involved. It's just not fair.
I definitely know how much it meant to her when she told me that she found it. So being here to support her, it definitely it gets me right here, for sure.
My wedding is in like 3 weeks, and most bridal shops don't return, like they don't have a turnaround time that fast.
While the soon-to-be newlyweds try to track down their dresses, we tracked down the owners to no avail. They didn't answer the phone or the door at home.
I think I just heard the door lock.
Hi there, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but we're from CBC News. We just want to get your side of the story. About the bridal shop closing? Nothing. The same silence many of their clients face, some venting on Facebook, others to Tashana, who's become a point of contact since she's gone public.
Wow. Oh gosh. Okay. I just hope that more brides that shopped at Jolie Bridal are aware of this now so that they can take the proper action into like getting their dress.
They're considering legal action.
Right now we're focusing on our wedding, and then we'll definitely be pursuing that because they are affecting our lives negatively.
If I don't get that dress, I just need something to wear down the aisle that is still emulates the same feeling that I had when I wore that dress.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
It's coming on the end of July already, and a lot of us are looking forward to September, and there's just not a lot of clarity as to what we can expect.
With just 7 weeks left until the first day of school, City Place parents are worried about the continued delays at the area's brand new schools. We have an update from the Toronto Catholic School Board. That's coming up.
Welcome back. A man in Ajax who worked for Uber and Lyft is under arrest. He is charged with allegedly assaulting a woman over the weekend. Police say a 21-year-old ordered a ride share early Sunday morning. She got picked up by a man who claimed to be her driver. He then drove her to a secluded area where he sexually assaulted her, stole her phone, and forced her out of the car. 33-year-old Suhail Siddiqui is charged with sexual assault, robbery, and choking charges. Police say Uber and Lyft are cooperating with the police investigation. Some downtown families are wondering tonight where their children will be going to school in September. The brand new Jean Lum Public and Bishop McConnell Catholic schools are finishing up construction at City Place. Now, both boards are hoping the facilities, which actually share the same location, will be ready for the first day of school. But as Daniel Clark tells us, at least one board is making other plans.
Both myself and my husband work full-time. I have 2 children, so that would require 2 drop-offs.
Like many working parents, Colette Abbott has children in daycare. She says the City Place delays mean she's facing a logistical nightmare come September.
I'd say easily an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. So that's 2 hours out of my day. And the whole reason we moved to this area and we like this area is because we can walk everywhere.
Both Catholic and public schools were supposed to open here in the fall. But the school boards say strikes by subcontractors delayed the projects and no official timeline has been released.
If anyone's undertaken a major renovation or bought a new house, very rarely does it go according to plan and on timelines.
Some parents are worried about overcrowding for temporarily relocated students.
We do believe it does have enough space at Nelson Mandela Park Public School. We chose that school because of the additional space to take on this additional school.
We've now learned from the Catholic School Board that Bishop McDonell, also under construction at the City Place site, is now officially delayed.
We certainly had made every effort, but unfortunately we recognize now that the school will not be open on time.
But they've at least given an estimate.
With any luck, we're looking at a month tops.
So by Christmas, the kids will be in here?
That has to be the goal. Well, I'll say many prayers for that.
In the meantime, Abbott says estimates just aren't good enough.
I feel like getting an update in the middle to the end of August is really causing myself and a lot of the families a lot of anxiety, and it's not giving us enough time to make those arrangements for before school and after school care.
Daniel Clark, CBC News, Toronto.
If you are looking for something to do with the kids tomorrow or Thursday, come on down to our place. It is CBC's Kids Day. It's on once again, taking over our CBC atrium with live shows, games, special appearances, and even a chance to tour this Studio K studios. You can see where Gary the Unicorn spends all his time. all starts at 10:15. It wraps up at 2:30 with the CBC Kids Parade. We need to bring an umbrella when you come down with the kids. Well, Colette will have your weather forecast after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Game 2 of a 4-game series against Boston for the Jays tonight. It's 1-0 in the second. Lindsay Oscar Hernandez hits a 3-run home run past the Green Monster. Gives Jays the lead. Red Sox pick up a few extra runs to tie it, but in the 5th, Justin Smoak takes it to right to put the Jays up again, and Toronto would get another 4 runs in the top of the 9th. The Jays go on to take this game 10-4. Colette is back with her extended forecast, and we talk about humidity in the summer. It always comes with summer rainstorms.
Yeah, it sure does. And we're kind of into that pattern where we get into some of this convection and see afternoon showers and thunderstorms developing. A little different scenario into Wednesday. We have some extra moisture to work with because of the remnants of Barry. Just a little review here of our average height this time of year, 27, average low 15. We were into the low 30s today, and we are still looking at that heat warning for southwestern Ontario. However, likely seeing that expand as we get towards the end of the work week. Wet conditions, though, prevail into Wednesday especially, and that real spike not just in temperatures but humidity for Friday and for Saturday upcoming for this weekend. So a little bit of that scattered thunderstorm activity or somewhat isolated becoming more widespread, especially into tomorrow morning. You can see it from the GTA back towards southwestern Ontario. Then it's going to come in sort of waves, hit and miss. As we get into the afternoon, hopefully we'll see that receding a little bit, but especially into the evening, you get into better chances of seeing a clearing trend and things drying out. So it's not all day, but it's the kind of thing where you do have to be prepared to run indoors or certainly to have that umbrella handy for you. Then as we look ahead towards Thursday, looks like some heavier thunderstorms will stay to the south of us, could just clip into southwestern Ontario, so we'll be kind of watching that for your forecast into Thursday. That risk tonight still, and looking at those lows and those low 20s, that's why we get into the heat warning. It's not just the daytime highs and humidity, it's the overnight lows too. And then we'll see scattered showers and thunderstorms and then decreasing risk as we go into the afternoon hours. The temperatures coming up another degree or two into tomorrow. Overnight tonight around the GTA, again, those lows very similar, 21, 22 degrees for overnight lows. Tomorrow afternoon, due to some of the precipitation, some of that cloud cover, it's still going to feel muggy, but the temperatures should hold a little bit cooler, so a few degrees lower than today, but still looking at that humidity, putting it so it feels like 37, 38 degrees. Thursday, a bit of a break now. Some of those storms early passing to the south and should stay out of the GTA. But Thursday overnight, the risk of seeing some isolated storms popping up into that summertime kind of pattern. 28 Thursday to 29, Friday 34, feeling 44, and that's really important. Feeling like the mid-40s as we go into Saturday as well, and that is why it gets into that oppressive kind of area in terms of how it feels and gets more dangerous, and we might see some warnings go up from Environment Canada, Mike.
Well, thanks for the warning ahead of that time. Thanks a lot, Colette.
No problem.
I'll look up at the full moon tonight and just think, 50 years ago today, astronauts started the journey to walk on it for the first time.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Well, many Canadians will remember watching that moment on television. I watched a replay this morning, in fact. Staring transfixed as Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins suited up and boarded the spacecraft. Days later, 2 of them would be walking on the moon. Events to mark the historic anniversary continue all week right across the city. Well, Schitt's Creek just wrapped up filming here in the GTA of its 6th and final season. Today, the cast got some big news from south of the border, nabbing 4 Emmy nominations. The series grabbed a huge nod, Best Comedy Series, putting it up against The Good Place, Veep, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And 2 of its stars also got nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor Awards, Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. The show is also in the running for the Contemporary Costumes category, likely for Catherine O'Hara's costumes there. Congratulations to them, a big honor for the Canadian show. And Eugene Levy will be on Q tomorrow to talk about what it means. You can catch that tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on CBC Radio 1. Remember, we've got CBC Kids Day tomorrow here at 10 in the morning. I'm back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.